What is up, fellow Cosmonarchs? Today we're going right back into Neblime versus jakulangski. It's Protoss versus Zerg. An experienced, mid-table Zerg player absolutely turning the screws on Neblime's learning Protoss plans. Let's see what happens. We're back on Paradise, of course. Where else would you rather be? And we have jakulangski in the bottom left and Neblime in the top left this time around. So once again, shout out to BiddyB for making Paradise, for porting it from Dante's Peak, and for not realizing that there's a very obvious jungle fuck up here. I can't believe this. Oh man, I also swore at the beginning of the video, so that means that you better subscribe, because otherwise YouTube won't recommend this video to 10,000 viewers. And we obviously want Cosmonarchy to grow, am I right? I hope you guys are enjoying the way that the game is evolving. I certainly am. I'm very interested in seeing what happens. I mean, part of that is down to the rich player base that we have that continues to grow. When you think about it, the fact that we have so many people who are new and also a decent number of people who have been around for a hot minute is very interesting. And so some of those newer faces will be debuting this weekend for our illustrious May Royal Invitational. And Neblime has already processed his veto. So I didn't talk about this before, but the returning players who have popped in from the previous tournament, the ones who got the invite, those are Art of Turtle, Hamster, the Shambler, and Neblime in sort of like ascending order of placement. Those guys are going to be able to try and issue a veto for their group. That basically means that they can choose a player who is also in the tournament, who's signed up and is ready to go, and they can say, hey, that guy cannot be in my group, and I'll do my best to oblige that. Obviously, we have to. We are always worshiping the altar of the schedule. Who can schedule where? What can we do? And that seems to be working out okay so far. We'll have to wait and see on that. But despite all of that, I figured I would just point that out, because it's kind of interesting. It's kind of interesting to think about, what exactly are we going to be seeing from some of these new guys, and what does that Royal Invitational veto power, wrinkle in? It's sort of like a smaller scale version of the group selection that you might see in a tournament like the Africa Star League or something like that, right, for Starcraft 1. So anyway, I just figured I'd drop that out. And yeah, Neblime has already vetoed his player. I guess I'll leave you in suspense, but it is a player that has featured plenty of times on the channel since the start of Acropolis #1, I guess, or maybe the start of its Battleman stage? One of the new guys. But that's all I'll say so far. I'm sure you can put in your comment section, tell me who you think he vetoed. But yeah, we're waiting on the Shambler's veto as of the recording of this video. And we are also then going to go down the list and say, okay, well, Hamster, you're up next. And I think Hamster is actually going to sign up as Terran, and I'm very excited about that. But hey, let's talk about the players we have here and now. So far in this series, jakulangski has been favoring the Larvosk into pool. Seems to be a pretty efficient opener if you're not going to get it contested in the early game. And you probably aren't unless you get first scouted. So seems like a good move on a 4-spawn map. I was actually thinking, maybe I have to figure out the math, and maybe I'll have to ask Krankendow, who came up with this strategy initially, what happens to this strategy if the Larvos goes up by 25 minerals? Does it then become more hazy as to which one is better? Are they both still good? Because I actually like the idea of them being polarized in that one of them gives you tools that the other one does not, and it's not necessarily that one is objectively better all the time. And so I wouldn't necessarily want to make it so that it's a wash and it doesn't matter which one you take, because that's not very interesting. We want to make it so that when you go there and you grab, this strategy, this opener over that opener, that should mean that you're just equipped to do things a little bit differently, right? So if this is just an advantage, that's kind of a bad thing. But also, if all increasing the resource cost does is make it so that it's, shall we say, easier to say that it doesn't really matter, it's up to personal preference, that's not good for me either. I actually like the idea of there being more distinct results than that. Now, Neblime is idling around for his second lattice. He has gone for gateway into lattice. He's going to go mass lattice here. Looks like he'll be favoring the idol zealot composition. You can spend your gas on the idols. They do cost a little bit less minerals than the zealot, so that also saves you up a little bit there. Scribe comes in for the scout finally, although zealot had already popped in here and confirmed this position, and he sees that there are no workers harvesting from this Hatrosk. You got to remember the worker vision range is quite high. Now, this Ethericore getting in is actually pretty big for Jack. It didn't have to happen. Neblime kind of having a bit of a unforced error there, and now he's going to go ahead and wiggle his workers around and eventually swift them up. So no actual damage dealt, but not that you would expect it from just one Ethericore. Obviously, workers in Cosmonarchy have a little bit more durability to them, a little bit more beef. Although that doesn't seem to matter when you're dropping phalanxes in the mineral line, although I guess I'll save that for later. I'm sure there will be some matches where that shows up in a cast. But this ain't a Terran game, so let's get out of here. By the way, it's very interesting watching what people say in the comment sections of these videos, because some people will say, you know, some words about balance, but I never see them actually playing the game. So how do we know? You know what I mean? So just saying. If you want to back it up, you think you can take on some of these people? Same deal if somebody comments about like low skill or something. Listen, if you're the Shambler or Neblime or somebody like that, you finished top 4 in the recent tournament. Okay, all right, you can talk about skill, but I don't want to hear it from most other people. I'm just saying. All right, so what is Jack going to do? He's got his third base set up. He's started a K-Grit. He's going to turn that into anti-surface defense almost certainly. We've got a second Larvosk and probably a preemptive Spraith. I guess that's because he scouted the Vassals, or the Lattice, which can create Vassals. Now, this third base, I feel like is very attackable. Let's see what jakulangski does. He's been in this position before. He's wiped his opponent's army, and it did work out pretty well for him now. The Vorvicors are going to go ahead and see if they can get directly on top of things, but they're struggling a little bit here to actually surround the idols. Remember, the idols deal a little bit of splash damage. Their radius not the best, but still something that does work. And so it looks like they are going to go ahead and thin the herd there. Now, there is no other tech immediately available. He's gone for the Vorv... he's made the Vornath Pond, obviously, but like I'm looking around, I'm waiting for the Hydrith Den or the Zorki's Shroud or something like that, so that he can better fight this position. You know, the Kizilisks would be good, Zoryus would be good. Those are both from the Shroud. Does he want to go for something else? No, he goes for the Shroud. Okay, so that's interesting. I'm just taking a look at the production tab up there to figure that out. That's the flower petal looking thing is on the way. That's the more expensive of the two options, so it means that you might be stuck at tier 1 for a little bit longer. But I also think that Neblime could have pushed his advantage there. He was mostly up against Quasilisks, and I think maybe looking back at this game, he might realize, oh yeah, I definitely had the opportunity to do a little bit more. Random pocketed Zeth might be able to run in for some vision later on. There's a nice little situation over here with this Warden that I'm not 100% sure what Neblime's thought process there is, but I guess it's to stop any Vorvs, or Anathacors rather, from flying on in. I guess Vorvs too, if they make it over there, but kind of unlikely. Now, attacking from the north. This is where I was thinking, you know, the cliff advantage gives you a nice, good spot to try to attack from if your enemy sort of charges too far forward. There are some gateway units filtering in that are not Zealots. And actually, I just heard that thing get canceled and remorphed, so it's going to take a second here before that finishes. It might have been the wrong structure initially. So, okay, once again, now we have the structure finished, but we don't have any of the units that come out of it. So that Shroud is out, but there's no more units coming. It's just going to be a bunch of Zets. Now, at this point, Neblime is fully committed to this position and has to chew through all the front line, which shouldn't be that big of a deal because it's all Zets, right? So the idols do help a lot with that. Now, unfortunately for jakulangski, he wasn't able to get rid of these Zealots, and those Zealots take way less damage from the Quasilisk than, you know, the idols take from the Quasilisk, right? So you think about that, you think, okay, for sure, this is a dead base. You think, all right, Jack doesn't really have the composition to deal with this. And again, it's because he makes the Shroud, but he hasn't really made anything else out of the Shroud, right? And he's still not making anything out of the Shroud even now, maybe because he doesn't have enough minerals. Hard to say. We've got an engram coming, setting up in at the ramp over here for Neblime, so he's being fairly cautious. He doesn't want to push any further down, maybe not expecting there to be a winning position over here. And you know what? This number of Vornath units, I do agree with that estimation that you would end up getting overrun, but you would still trade pretty cost efficiently. It's just a question of, you know, do you hold from there? So he falls on back, leaves a couple of units over here. I'm not sure if intentional or not, but they do confirm that the third base is being set up, which you want to know because it means that you're not being all-in as a response, right? And now with enough Vespene to go for tier 2 immediately, Spraith is going to be plenty handy at dealing with the vassals that are coming in here just to scout around and see what's going on. So, you know, due diligence done there, and the Iral Iris does drop down after the vassals can no longer scout. We only now have an embassy coming. I talked about this earlier in the previous video, how Neblime hasn't really adapted to going for faster embassies so far in these games, and that's what a lot of other Protosses have been doing, even in Necropolis days, but also in the new version of the game as well. People like Hit 'em Up have been playing a lot of Protoss, so it does make some sense. So a couple of really high-value shots to soften up the Vorvs and the Zets from that engram makes jakulangski reconsider this attack. He wants to pop back in, see if he can pick a couple of units here. He's just going to try to go for it, but again, you're looking at 9 idols here. They can deal a lot of splash damage. Trying to fall away from the engram seems to be working out okay. A fallen Ecclesiast gives everybody else a speed boost, and so that means that the idols fall back into a much more defensible position. Now, a couple of Quasilisks and other such units were able to get a little bit of eco damage dealt here, and Neblime is behind in workers. Not because of that, but in addition to that, that's just sort of insult to injury. He was also already nominally behind in workers. Now he's even further so. And maybe that's the cover that jakulangski needs, while getting a little bit of a trade down on the army to be able to, hold the attack. Now, he doesn't really have that much coming right now. Remember, he's attacking and traded all of his army, including like the melee units and stuff, at the point in time where we had the transition out of tier 1 and into tier 2. So he's getting a spire, he's getting a nest. We'll see what he ends up doing with those. Now, meanwhile, the Ecclesiast is most likely going to fall again, and that is actually a high-value target in this situation, so it looks like actually he's doing okay. More Ecclesiasts charging on in. Those are okay to fall in a different way, I suppose. Nice flank from 2 Zets, picking that back Ecclesiast very wounded. That unit heals the shields of units near its attacker, or its target. So if it attacks this Zeth, any unit near that Zeth would be healed for shields. So you can imagine very, very good for a front line. The Golem is a very tanky unit itself, so definitely a good option. Now the Vorvs are going to come out and see if they can try to get a bit of an ensnare tag. There is a wounded idol here at the back line here, but at this point I think Jack knows, okay, I just got to pop out. Let's see if he's expanding. And actually he pockets the Scribe. Very good sense from Neblime. Jack might not scout far enough to know that. We do have a Stargate up making exemplars. Will do very, very well versus this kind of composition. And, the only question is whether or not we get, like, mutas in response to that. But you actually already have the tools to deal with mutas in the land effect if you go from the Stargate itself. So we'll see if that is fielded onto the sort of battle at this point. But I'm not 100% sure Neblime is thinking that far ahead right now. We do have gas capping. There you go. We do have that coming up for jakulangski. So he is going to upgrade his income a little bit there. And yeah, this is just a back and forth sort of posturing from both players. But obviously the low-tech army of the Zerg is going to start giving way to more units. Now, the Zorius was available for most of the game, don't get it twisted, and it is a very good unit, but only 2 of them at this stage of the game, not going to help you out too much. The sustain really building up with 5 Ecclesiasts and 2 Golems. It is going to be a little bit, more of a requirement that you build additional units at this point. Making a lot of Quasilisks, but there's no Calcier Pond, or the Calcier Lake. So with no lake, you can't really evolve them in anything more useful than just the Quasi. I guess you can station the Matroleth nearby to make it so that they debuff the units and stuff. I'm not sure. Protathalors are good versus the rest of the army, but they don't shoot up. So you're going to have to deal with that Exemplar some other way. Back at home, more Exemplars. Third base on the way for the Protoss player. And it looks like a bit of a Quasi-drop is going to be orchestrated here. I suppose it wouldn't be terrible. I mean, you think about it, with the way that this ridge exists, you actually need to station something over here. Kind of like the... funnily enough, on Germination, another Biddy map. Again, this being a port of Dante's Peak, it's like half his map, half somebody else's, right? It's activated for Cosmonarchy. And the Quasilisks are revving their engines. Let's see what happens when they pop in here. I don't know if they'll get more than 2 worker kills here. I guess 3rd or 4th. No, just 3. Okay, so not too bad. Now, the rest of the army moving forward, I don't know if they can take a good position from this point. What are they going to deal with the Exemplars with? There are no air units coming. Hydrathan only now started for Hydras to try to deal with those. These Exemplars can reign supreme. I mean, they're really not going to die to the Quasis. I guess you got to watch out for the Ensnare, because maybe then they actually would die eventually. Falling back to the defenses, and Engram most of the way complete. I don't think Jack can actually crack the code here. Those Quasilisks were cleaned up by some Golems, so no worries there. Back to mining immediately. And indeed, the front line has faltered, but Neblime stands strong with his back line, and of course his air unit's still flying high. Protathalors, most of them, maybe all of the Protathalors actually managed to escape. Those are fairly expensive units relative to like the Quasilisk or whatever. Alcag at the 3rd, and a 4th base going up at 9 o'clock. Interesting choice for that. Just needed to throw down the money, get it spent. Now it looks like Neblime finding his footing in the matchup, at least versus this particular player, going for the air as a bit of an experiment, and not yet responded. I'd love to see some Mutalisks from this position, but you do have to watch out for the idle spam, right? Now the Protathalors are going to start to get focused down, I think, by these Exemplar. They are slowly putting the damage dealt onto these units and confirming them, but yeah, a bunch of them are falling. Zets are going to be cleaned up easy. Now we have some Mutas coming. Also some Convalisks, not a bad shout. They will create those brood spawn pretty regularly. Unfortunately, though, the Matrolith's not being able to find too much here. Now, the Sprite's finished. These will occupy the Exemplar a little bit here and actually get one very, very low. So that ends up being kind of stealth. Tethvith on the way as well, I suppose, for maybe Vithrilisks. This 9 o'clock base going undetected so far by Neblime. We never really saw Neblime. I can't infest. Yeah, I don't know what was going. Yeah. All right. He didn't seem to kill anything on my screen. I don't know what was going on there. The button not even working. Yeah, tell me, dude. He told me about Plague, but I couldn't reproduce it. Yeah. Yeah. Anyway, I did some fixes. Maybe it's fixed now. Ancestral Archive's coming. Okay. We might see the badass Optecton come on. Come on. Let's see what happens. Fourth base for the Protoss at 12. Zerg too busy typing Shambler style. Hasn't been able to expand too much. Now we got some Vithrilisks coming. Kagralisks, 10 of them just hatched. That's actually going to be a really good option for trying to bring down some of these heavier hitters in the mid-range. Ecclesias sort of wandering all over the place. Static defense being erected at 12 o'clock. Finally, we get a nice... well, I say finally. There was a longer game that we casted in the previous set, but it was like Neblime fighting from behind for a very long period of time, and Jack taking his sweet time and pulling the trigger. So, no bueno there, but let's see what happens over in this situation. We do have the Vassal starting to falter to all of the Quasis. Kagralisk coming out to try to... Yeah, absolutely eviscerating some of these golems. Single target fire definitely working out for him. Now, the Vithrilusk is here to debuff the units. We saw this in the previous matchup as well, but there's only one of them right now. And now all of the other ground units for Jakulangski are stacked up on top of each other. So they are taking extra splash damage, but the Vilgalets have spawned in a lot of brood spawn to occupy the rest of the backline. I just don't know if it's going to be enough. I think there's more Vithrilusks here. But yeah, there's not really much more fire support. Needs to get the Matrolets out of there. They're very gas intensive, and you can see Neblime taking advantage of Jakulangski's sort of lack of awareness there, lack of attention detail paid. Now taking the 6 o'clock position. Okay, all right. So we are going up to 5 bases for the Zerg. Still feels like you want to keep 1 base padding between you and your opponent as Zerg, but, you know, at the very least. Sharking around looking for the Exemplar. They are off in the middle of the map. So those Vithrilisks are really going to be trying to gun after them. You can see how they're going to start debuffing the units underneath them. Yeah, wisely, Neblime falls away with the Exemplar, pulling them back to the Engram. He knows that the rest of his force can deal with what Jakulangski is fielding for now. And also, those idols are dealing splash damage to the Vithrilisks. So even though it's not much damage, it stacks up. Eventually, you know, you only have to kill 1 Vithrilusk's worth of HP if they're all stacked up on top of each other. All right, Jakulangski going to continue reconnoitering, confirming that there are indeed no other bases. Or just about confirming anyway, sending those Zeths around. I don't think he's known about 12 o'clock yet, but he can probably suspect it based on the positioning of the army. Now, he's going to get caught with all of these Quasilisks, and yeah, his Vithrilisks are going to fall directly over. There's a Patriarch here for even better splash damage, and that is almost certainly going to ensure that the air units stay alive for a long period of time. Very, I would say, a poor trade coming out of Jack here in terms of his army spacing. He does need to fall back and think about this a little bit more. Has he done enough? Has he spent enough time? Or is it going to be basically too little too late at this point? He's going to go ahead and drop the Vilgalets, try to turn those corpses against his opponent. But again, stacking his Kagralisks up. His Death Zoroark is only arriving now. And the Matrolets are indeed going to get sniped down again. Those are very expensive units. He hasn't set up too many static defenses over here. He is going to go for an additional anti-surface. He made some mutas a while ago. They might have just died to idols, though. I'm not 100% sure. Making some Nathracors now. Might be thinking about Calcalisks. He's only got the 1 Kaffralosk as far as I can tell. That mutates the advanced strains immediately, so that's where you see the Vithrilisks come out. Which, it just occurred to me. I never made a birth animation for the Vithrilusk, a custom one that actually uses the right graphic, because it uses like the old beta cocoon. But I also never made one from the egg, so I gotta fix that. Anyway, enough developer musings. The Vithrilusks are in the field of battle. We do have some Nathracors as well. I guess maybe they'll just, you know, occupy some of the enemies for a little bit here, but they've mostly, yeah, they've just now, the last of them died. Let's see, Vithrilusk still trying to do their best, but all they're really doing is zoning the Exemplar away, and the rest of the forces are not actually falling fast enough here for this trade to be very good for Jakulangski. He's made some Vigrilisks, but I don't know, it's starting to feel like the, you know, Neblime's forces haven't really been hemorrhaging very much. The Kagralisks trying to kill the Patriarchs using that cliff advantage. Maybe they can actually pull it off. There's 3 of them now, though, and I feel like that's going to be way, way too much. The strobing effect of the Protoss forces indicating they are both move speed enchanted and attack rate enchanted. They are carving through this Zerg armada almost immediately. Yeah, that fight did not go Jakulangski's way. He's falling back to his base all the way at 9 o'clock yet again, but now he has no anti-air defenses. The Exemplars are going to wreak havoc, and even without them, I feel like this kind of attack force would be able to do a pretty good amount of damage. Now, here come the Vithrilisks. You can see them being debuffed so that they will indeed feed over more shields to the Protoss arsenal, and that is going to be way too much, I think, for Jack to handle. Quasi's coming on in. In fact, I'm just now realizing that the attack rate enchant on the Patriarch was removed, and so that's how old this game was, because that was pretty fast that I ended up removing that. So that no longer happens. You'll need to tech into more specialized technology to get the double strobe effect. But yeah, as it currently stands, I don't think Jack has much of a chance of winning this particular match. We've got him transferring workers down to that 6 o'clock base. Not too many of them ended up surviving. I'm not so sure what Jack can really field at this point. He doesn't have that much money. He's going for some Almaxilisks, which would be great at dealing with some of the units in isolation, but you need to find a way to actually deal with the fact that they deal stacking damage, right? That's the key detail for me. How do you get around the fact that he's got Idols and Patriarchs, both of which deal splash? How do you get around that? I love the Zeths in here in the top right denying the base for now. There's some golems to clean those up. Nice and easy. All right, Neblime is deciding to route around the map. Jakulangski not giving up just yet, retaking control of the 9 o'clock position. Random workers in the middle of the map getting bopped. Protoss glowing red in anger. Trying to figure out what that broken graphic was at this game build. I guess it was the Grand Library, yeah. Oh yeah, that's right. I fixed that later on. And now we have the Uptech Con. I mean, we've seen this badass before, but it's always cool to see it again. Now he's going to attack even faster. You can't fight the strobing Uptech Con, dude. You gotta fall back. You gotta. Yeah, at this stage, I really feel like Jakulangski is out of it. I mean, he just doesn't have any units that can deal with the Patriarchs in particular. Especially what with the Vassals dying to give the movement speed boost. Like, they can just sort of move around all the way. Maybe if there were more static defenses here, he could kind of pick apart at the extremities. But now the Golems are filtering down. They're kind of getting body blocked by those units at the top of the ramp. GG is called, and that is going to do it for our first game. Okay, well, Neblime on the board. Would love to see it. That is definitely something where I feel like looking at that composition does feel like it's a pretty good one. I don't know if Neblime didn't take a little bit too long to get there, though. That's my one concern, is that, like, I feel like maybe if Jakulangski had, for example, gone to use the Zorius or maybe Hydrith earlier than he did, wouldn't he get a little bit more value out of that? Wouldn't he get a little bit more power and set the pace a little bit more? So I do feel like maybe the exact tools will change as more and more Zergs get more and more experienced at dealing with Protoss. But anyway, enough about all of that. We do have one more game for today's video. This one will be a little bit on the longer side. By the way, we're still adjusting what the format is going to look like. So if you prefer 20 minutes or 30 minutes or whatever minutes, let me know in the comment section below. I got some feedback saying 20, 45, an hour. Who knows what the final cut people mostly want. But I think anything around the 20 to 40 range is quite doable. So just let me know what you think. And let's get into game number 2. We are getting straight into game number 2 for today, which is actually game number 4 for the set. And here we have Neblime in the top right against E520, aka Jakulangski in the bottom right. I don't know why he's E520, but it's like 420 to another degree or something. I don't know. I don't know. I do not partake in 420 activities very often. It's like once every 3 months or something. I remember I have some. So, yeah, let's just say my tolerance does not exist. And then that reminds me of a Hapsea stream where EUD was doing a 5-minute nuke move, and Hapsea was looking around his screen like an absolute maniac. Like, what? Where is it? It was great. Let's just say he also doesn't have much of a tolerance, as we all found out that day. Now, Neblime will probably go his Gateway Lattice Opener yet again. He does like to do that. And, of course, Jakulangski is going to go for the Larvosk into Pool. That's why he's going for the Kagrant first. For those who are maybe a bit new to Cosmonarchy's Zerg, you can go for Larvosk into Pool, or you can go hatch at the ramp. And then on some maps, maybe on Force Bomb maps, you can go hatch, low-ground hatch, right? It's kind of interesting. But we shall wait and see. Yeah. I don't know. I think the new Hydra, which is just the old Hydra with no armor penetration, is actually still very good versus Protoss. You just need to pair it with armor penetration. I don't think that's true. I mean, maybe if there's a lot of microing or something on one side. See what Jack has to say. Yeah, I think in the last game, the Hydra still would have dealt a lot of damage to the idols. That's definitely what controlled the pace for Neblime. And idols do have, let's say, a lot less durability than the Dracodon. So, I feel like it would be good. Anyway, well, you know, there's going to be time. Jakulangski thinks no armor pen is too much. Well, they have one armor pen versus any unit that's debuffed by a Vorvacor. So just start combining arms, dude. Skull. I'll make one soon. Neblime just revealing his strategy. All right, well, the vassals are charging in. The typing has indeed happened. And now the vassals have to do moving shots on the way back to get rid of these Zets. Otherwise, things are about to get uggo. But hey, if halfway done is that idol with its one armor. All right, combining at the ramp, trying to make sure that they get rid of the stuff here. Going after the pylon. There's already redundancy one in place. A third one, in fact. And they all die. Auto devastation. The one armor of the idol is here to ward off the attackers. And as a result, I do not think Jakulangski will be winning the early game. Dude, I feel like we've gone into silly territory already with this particular cast. And I'm not apologizing. Oh my, no! Okay, hold on. Unless Biddy B screwed this up. This is very wrong. No, it wasn't in range. Couldn't get it enchanted. The sight range of this guy is rather pitiful. And those kinds of effects scale with sight range, if you didn't know. Now, the move here for Neblime is going to be for an Expo. He knows that his opponent is behind an Eco a little bit. And relative to what he might have been if he didn't go for that attack. Already is indeed the Spraith here. So, you know, you get one worker. That's not going to be too bad at all. Sort of trading out the vassals. It looks like, actually, Jack is going to go for a fast 3 base. I don't know if I like this, because it does increase your surface area a lot. But if it doesn't go very heavily punished, you can get up to tier 2 very fast. Oh my god, is this a double Ovalith drop? Wait, or a Kagran drop? What is this? By the way, I had a sick team game. Oh, I see what he's just going to migrate them over there. It makes sense. I had a sick team game with Krankendow, where I went for Ovaleths, and he built the Kagrans, and I just ferried them over. I also stole one of his workers so that he could make a new one when I landed it there. Because he didn't make the second one on time, so I just took a worker instead. That'll teach you to not commit to my plan. Alright, so it looks like, yeah, this is just going to be for a Spraith at that location before the hatch actually comes out, which is pretty smart. Makes sense. Vassals amassing to peer into the natural. Engram at the ramp. Very defensive from Neblime. He's been very conservative with his play overall, fearing the aggression from Mr. Jakulangski here. Oh, I don't know. Vassal's coming back over. They're going to destroy that Ovalith. No hope for that guy. A lot of burrowed Quaza over here. We've got the Vornath giving room for, funnily enough, 4 pairs of Nathracors. We have no defenses in the natural or in the main. I mean, we have units in the natural, I guess. The problem is that if the vassals can scout stuff, right? If they don't walk over here, and where's the Unburrow? There it is. Nice trap. But he only gets 1 or 2, yeah. And he still loses a worker for it as well. So that was kind of like the most that he was hoping for, so that he could basically get the unscouted, deny the scout versus the Nathracors. He might still be able to fly directly into the main and do a lot of damage with these. Let's see what he ends up doing. He's making 2 more pairs, so he'll have a total of 12, by the way. Let's see if he pulls the trigger before getting those other 2 or not. In fact, where are those other two coming from? Something that you're going to pay attention to when you're trying to figure out who like the top Zergs are going to end up being in Cosmonarchy is how much, like how great are they at separating their production out so that their units come out from the right structures. Because in StarCraft 1 you obviously don't have multi-building select, right? But in this particular case, oh boy, watch out for the splash! Watch out for the splash! No! Oh, so much gas lost. I wonder if... Does Jack not know the idol does splash damage? I feel like he's the kind of guy who reads the website a lot. He should definitely know that it does splash. But that felt like he didn't. Also, Biddy B, what is this? I know you're watching. Fix this. What? What? It's like here, but over here. That's weird. All right, I'll stop looking at that. Stargate coming for Lattice production. Neblime looking in control in this game. But let's see what the response is from jakulangski. He still has a little bit of room. He's made a lot more Naths again. Got the one burrowed Quaz up there. I don't know if it'll stay burrowed or not. Wants to try to engage this force with the Zets and the Quaz. He doesn't even know that it's there. They're walking right past each other. Now they're going to see each other. Okay, what do the Naths end up doing here? Because, again, the idols will deal a lot of that splash damage to the Nathicores, especially since they're naturally clumping up and they're not being counteracted by the split. But they're still falling back instead of shooting, so they are not going to be too successful at doing too much damage right now. Losing most of the idols, the Engram Kraken shot after shot will end up convincing a lot of those Zerg units, achieving their deliverance. Well, they are pretty much dead, but hey, some worker raids happening. Neblime still behind in workers, and this doesn't help exactly. Oh, loses a vassal at the last second, too. More units jumping on in. Maybe they get one more worker kill. Indeed they do. All right, this is a little excessive. Yeah, tuck tail. Whew, narrowly dodging that shot. It's so interesting to me that all the different races in the game have like something that the other race really hates, and so everybody complains about like something about one race. It's maybe that's how it should be. Maybe that's how it'll always be. These vassals going down are speeding up the idols, making them impossibly slippery to catch, so that the Quasalisks can't really pursue them. That's that blue strobe overlay we saw so much of in the last game. I'm pretty sure, by the way, that should probably be toned down a little bit. I'm not totally lost on that. We'll probably tweak that. That's a new read, so first time I'm seeing both of them together. Although I will say, again, you're not going to see that exact interaction with that composition because you're going to need to actually deliberately combine Ascension with Avenging. All right, big line of burrow. No witnesses yet. The embassy was made, but I don't think we have any witnesses out. In fact, did the embassy even get used? Maybe for workers? Yeah, okay, it's just used for that. Unburrow has occurred, and they've just charged on forward. This is actually the real big time because the exemplars are coming down, and there's not really anything to deal with them right now. So, great choice over here for jakulangski to try his best and focus these down, but they're immortal! They cannot die! Wow! Unbelievable. He didn't focus fire, and they did what they were supposed to. So when the golem takes damage to its shields, it releases a pulse of shield healing. And because he was attacking all of them separately, they were healing each other forever. Now that is gorgeous. Maybe if he had some Vorvs mixed in there, might have helped out, because it would have reduced the armor. That's a new feature that the Vorv has. When the Hydra lost its armor pen, the Vorv gained some armor rend, but it's a flat one. It only applies one. There's no stacking behavior. God damn, those golems, man. Having some power here. This might actually be an early GG from Jack. I don't know if he can do too much from this position. Got to watch out for that. Making some more defenses, mutating some Vorvs. Has to get his workers out of there. The golems do deal splash damage in a small radius. All right, looks like the idols are going to get slapped around a little bit. These golems taking their sweet time killing the Spraith. They don't deal a lot of damage, but they certainly can stay alive for a very long time, so that definitely helps. More units falling on in here, but it looks like they're going to quickly get surrounded and shoot up. What is the reaction? What is the defense for the Exemplar? It's stacking up almost 1,000 damage now, and the golems are still alive! Oh my god, they're unkillable. If only you had a Hydralisk. If only you had one Hydralisk. All right, does he have enough Nathicores to clean this out and kill the idols so that he doesn't lose all of his units to splash? I'm not sure if the answer is yes, but it looks like maybe the answer is yes. Yes, okay, the answer was yes. He wipes out the Exemplar. Now he can slowly pick apart the golems. I can't believe what I'm watching. So this is what happens, by the way, if you're mostly talking about using... But he's still not focus firing them, so they're just staying alive way longer than they should. They not dying. It's true. They naughty. All right. You got a lot of gnats. That's a lot of gas spent. Surely you go for a lake now and mutate all of those gnats into calcalusks, because then they are just unstoppable. 32 nathricores, guys. That's a lot of nathricores. We've got the 1 engram warping in, the 3 idols. They could just run roughshod over the space. Let's see what they end up doing. They need to get rid of the idols first and the pylon next. Oh, they're not really focus firing here. Okay, they are going to get rid of that. They don't end up going after much else. And look at that. They go for 32 to 14, just to show you what happens when you fight 5 idols in there. 2 more reinforcement idols actually were a pretty big deal for that particular situation. You can see 200, 300 damage between them. It's a lot of damage to be dealt to a unit that's got 75 health. So just keep that in mind. And yeah, look, that's that empty graphic up here is the Grand Library. Like I said, I already fixed that, so no worries. I had left like the file not renamed properly in the directory. All right, so they're gonna charge in here, get rid of this warden, and slap down a little bit of lost mining time here. Remember, the 3rd base has been up and running for a little bit now, and now we've got Mass Muta as the follow-up here, so that's kind of interesting. I don't mind the Grand Library here for a Cantavis or something. Redundancy pylons, because some of his production is now off. Oh no, the engram. Well, okay, now you can definitely start using the mutas to deal with the idols a little bit better than the Nats can, that's for sure. You gotta watch out for that engram, though. Oh! Slap dash. Slap down. Fall to the ground. How did I get here? Well, that's a question that jakulangski is probably going to be asking himself as he continuously slaps more and more air units on top. He does destroy 1 lattice, the architect of his demise. But unfortunately, he wasn't really able to do too much else other than that. He wants to go ahead and take the 6 o'clock position, but little does he know, his true nemesis, 2 golems! 1 golem is not that much. 2 golems, though. Oh my god, he gets it down. I can't believe it. If only Neblime was on the ball for that. Is there still no lake? No lake. Okay. So now he's going to go ahead and go into the Almaxilisk. That's the puffball-looking thing there. Going for the Zorka Shroud. Is he just going to go all air? Do we see, like, Mass Gorg? Mass Gorg, Mass Almac. Gorg Almac is a scary air force, so it's not without any possibility. Now right-click one of them. No, he's not doing it. There we go. Beautiful. It's funny because normally they just lose their shields and stop releasing that debuff, but you can see that if you're not dealing that much damage, and they do have 3 armor, right? So if you're not rending their armor with the tools you have, and you're not ignoring their armor with other tools that you have, or just dealing enough damage, period, that is going to be a problemo. Now, that borrowed Quaz does reveal that the 3 o'clock position is likely taken. Lovely witness placement over here. Definitely going to spot stuff. Needs to watch out for his exemplar getting caught, though. The 1 golem. 1 golem is a lot less scary. You can deal with 1 golem. Just send like 4 Zets at it. Starting to harvest the Vespine here for extra air production. So far it's actually been a Vigorlisk. I guess he wants to use the minerals mostly on Zorius. That would make sense. All right, let's see what happens. Mass idols. Very, very nice sort of split over here of the idols. You're going to have a hard time getting through there. Saw the witnesses positioned in the middle of the map to spot any army rotations through there. All Neblime really needs is like 1 more that's like on this position or maybe this position. So that's kind of interesting. Wow, 3 engrams. He's really going to go ahead and dig in here. So, okay, jakulangski does have more bases up and running with the Gosvalets making these bases over here. But he doesn't actually have them saturated. So that's a little concerning to me. Double Grand Library, Crucible to enchant most of this production. That's actually really well placed. I think it'll hit this Grand Library, and it'll definitely hit like the Stargate and the Lattice. So very nice. The only production in here that it won't hit is the Nexus and the Embassy, and that's easy to ignore for now. But also, it's kind of scary to me how centralized Neblime's production is. If you catch his army out and destroy it, he's definitely going to be worse for wear. All right, the armies catch each other on the other side of the map. Some scrap cobble units charging in from the center. They're going to get cleaned up. But is that going to be enough? Because now the Amaranths are gone. We've got the Zoryustalats trying to see what they can do to get on top of the army and increase the movement speed of everybody else. Let's see. The Almaxilisks have been doing a remarkable job clearing out some of the chaff on the bottom. They also deal very, very nicely with armor, is the general rule. So it looks like they will rout the force for Neblime. He's going to go ahead and send those 4 manifolds, which are very speedy, off to the bottom. He might be able to catch this Atreus, but yeah, the one more shot from the Almac would do it, but it looks like he's going to get to some relative amount of safety. These Exemplar are going to be shredding the ground, focusing down the Avigralisks and such. And not very many air units left over here. In fact, maybe none? I actually don't know. I guess the Almacs died to the combined arms of the vassals. Some of these manifolds are going to get cleaned up before any worker deaths can happen, thanks to some random units that got rallied over here, so that's pretty good. Reminding Jack, actually, to saturate his bases in the bottom left, so no harm, no foul there, I suppose. Helping his opponent out there, Neblime. And we don't actually have... Okay, 12 o'clock is in his sights. He hasn't taken it yet. Adding a prostration stage. Rogue galleries. Okay, I like the rogue galleries as an option. Neblime plays Protoss like... kind of like I would, like he definitely plays it like a Zerg. He's basically getting access to all the different tech, right? And that's heartwarming for me as the developer. But is it going to be enough, right? So let's see if this Nexus gets canceled because it's a force. Yeah. Okay, he even executes the worker as well. Now if he can get out of here with most of those Zets, that can definitely be positive. Let's see if he can station his Avigralisks and get them up this double-wide ramp. That could actually be a really big move if the army is still not very close by, because then you might be able to overwhelm the engrams. Doesn't look like Jack wants to pull the trigger on that. Remember that these witnesses are continuing to spot pretty much the whole center of the map. Like, I think the only way for Jack to sidestep it... No, there is no way to sidestep it, in fact. So, very nice there from Neblime's coverage. He's the all-seeing eye. The all-seeing you, perhaps. Zets in the top left. They can go ahead and try to cancel 12 o'clock again if Jack smells that out, sniffs that out. All right, Pariah's coming out of the prostration stage. I've seen people try this unit a couple of times. It's very, very beefy, but with 4 armor and 400 net health, 100 of which can be sustained using the shield mechanics. Seems like it would be really good, but not too many people have actually been using it. So I don't know how good it really is. It does, when it debuffs an enemy unit and they die, they are going to be ascended, which is attack speed increase for allies. So they actually gain attack rate after killing a unit or assisting in killing a unit. Random Amaranth. Killed off just to see what's going on. Now, we haven't gone past the 5 base count here, or 6 base count for Jakulangski just yet. He is maybe thinking about taking additional bases, but there's some nice units blocking that ability. Flying Worker being able to help out with that. He's fallen back. He is going to lose a Kagralisk to Vassals, which is an inglorious death. The rest of the army is in this position, though. You really want to be careful about allowing your opponent up this little spoke. Oh my god. He's standing on top of the Drolet, so he reveals it, and thus he is unkillable. I can't believe this. Zorius can come down and help, surely. Let's find out. Atreus randomly by itself, you know, it can take on the whole army. It's an Optecton, right, guys? Right? Now, the Exemplars are stacked up here, so the Vithralisks can definitely help. We've seen this time and time again in this set so far. So many Vithralisks, they are going to reduce the armor of every unit here. So keep that in mind. Armor already down to 0. All right, the Pariah definitely enchanting the rest of the army in terms of attack rate. We got the Bargeths to increase armor penetration for the Protoss. Bleeding off a lot of the front line here, though. We only have 4 golems left in the front right now. But where's the front line for Jakulangski? That's another question. These units just sort of caught on each other's buildings, it looks like, trying to automatically acquire those static defenses. Now they're going to go ahead and be routed. The Idol does deal, does have that interception mechanic, so bullets, structures will intercept it. So you got to be particularly careful about its positioning. Oh, speaking of, the Vithralisks dying, that's a very big turn moment here. What can we do instead? Tier 3 on the way for Jakulangski, but are we going to actually see it in action? We need to see if Jakulangski can hold on at this point. He's got Bactylisks and stuff, but the front line has descended upon him. The Pariah is carving a path of blood directly through the enemy force. Zorius out to the side. They need to be rallied to the front. We've got a couple more units in production right now. It's all Calculisks. We could see a lot more than that. Almaxilisk's queued up as well. Not that much income right now. This base completely annihilated. The random units over here not actually charging forward. That Amaranth staying very, very healthy right now. Need to see what we can do for the micro in this battle. No surround coming, no reinforcement spawning. I think maybe Neblime has done it again to tie this series of 8 games up. Finally, these Amaranths will... No, he's attacking his Excizen. He's mistargeted. Oh, no. He's killed his own Excizen, and now his Natural's under attack. The hatch on the front. Oh, he's even made Oxel Cesiance the Mad Lad. And they're going to get destroyed. Oh, there's so much gas. Oh, my God. Well, the Protoss Death Ball is in your corridor here. I don't know that you're going to be able to carve your way through this one. Reinforcements could use cliff advantage. Tier 3 is done, but it's going to be a while before it actually gets used. Ah, the worker death. Neblime finally taking the worker lead. GG is called, and Neblime ties our series up. Okay. Well, you know what, guys? That was a fun set of matches so far. That was a fun pair that we just got to cast today. Of course, we'll be back tomorrow. Let me once again confirm by looking at the folder that, yeah, I think... there is an outside chance we can do all 4 of those games in one video tomorrow, based on the file sizes I'm seeing here. But don't hold your breath, because who actually knows? GG's all around, 22-22 on the dot. And yeah, we'll be back tomorrow for more of this matchup. Peace.